This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Rinkitink in Oz by L. Frank Baum. Chapter 8. Rinkitink Makes a Great Mistake. The fat king rode his goat through the streets of the conquered city, and the boy prince walked proudly beside him, while all the people bent their heads humbly to their new masters, whom they were prepared to serve in the same manner they had King Gos. Not a warrior remained in all Regos to oppose the triumphant three. The bridge of boats had been destroyed. Inga and his companions were free from danger, for a time at least. The jolly little king appreciated this fact and rejoiced that he had escaped all injury during the battle. How it had all happened he could not tell, nor even guess, but he was content in being safe and free to take possession of the enemy's city. So as they passed through the lines of respectful civilians on their way to the palace, the king tipped his crown back on his bald head and folded his arms and sang in his best voice the following lines: "Oh, here comes the army of King Rinkitink. It isn't a big one, perhaps you may think, but it's scattered the warriors quicker than wink. Rinkitink, tinky tink, tink. Our Bilbil's a hero and so is his king. Our foemen have vanished like birds on the wing. I guess that as fighters we're quite the real thing. Rinkitink, tinky tink, tink." "Why don't you give a little credit to Inga?" inquired the goat. "If I remember aright, he did a little of the conquering himself." "So he did," responded the king, "and that's the reason I'm sounding our own praise, Bilbil. Those who do the least often shout the loudest and so get the most glory. Inga did so much that there is danger of his becoming more important than we are, and so we'd best say nothing about him." When they reached the palace, which was an immense building furnished throughout in regal splendor, Inga took formal possession and ordered the major domo to show them the finest rooms the building contained. There were many pleasant apartments, but Rinkitink proposed to Inga that they share one of the largest bedrooms together. "For," said he, "we are not sure that old Gos will not return and try to recapture his city, and you must remember that I have no magic to protect me. In any danger, were I alone, I might be easily killed or captured, while if you are by my side, you can save me from injury." The boy realized the wisdom of this plan and selected a big bedroom on the second floor of the palace, in which he ordered 2 golden beds placed and prepared for Rinkitink and himself. Bilbil was given a suite of rooms on the other side of the palace, where servants brought the goat fresh-cut grass to eat and made him a soft bed to lie upon. That evening the boy prince and the fat king dined in great state in the lofty domed dining hall of the palace, where 40 servants waited upon them. The royal chef, anxious to win the favor of the conquerors of Regos, prepared his finest and most savory dishes for them, which Rinkitink ate with much appetite and found so delicious that he ordered the royal chef brought into the banquet hall and presented him with a gilt button which the king cut from his own jacket. "You are welcome to it," said he to the chef, "because I have eaten so much that I cannot use that lower button at all." Rinkitink was mightily pleased to live in a comfortable palace again and to dine at a well-spread table. His joy grew every moment, so that he came in time to be as merry and cheery as before Pingaree was despoiled. And although he had been much frightened during Inga's defiance of the army of King Gos, he now began to turn the matter into a joke. "Why, my boy," said he, "you whipped the big black-bearded king exactly as if he were a schoolboy, even though you used no warlike weapon at all upon him. He was cowed through fear of your magic, and that reminds me to demand from you an explanation. How did you do it, Inga? And where did the wonderful magic come from?" Perhaps it would have been wise for the prince to have explained about the magic pearls, but at that moment he was not inclined to do so. Instead, he replied, "Be patient, your majesty. The secret is not my own, so please do not ask me to divulge it. Is it not enough for the present that the magic saved you from death today?" "Do not think me ungrateful," answered the king earnestly. 1,000,000 spears fell on me from the wall, and several stones as big as mountains, yet none of them hurt me." "The stones were not as big as mountains, sire," said the prince with a smile. "They were, indeed, no larger than your head." "Are you sure about that?" asked Rinkitink. "Quite sure, your Majesty." "How deceptive those things are!" sighed the king. "This argument reminds me of the story of Tom Tick, which my father used to tell." "I have never heard that story," Inga answered. "Well, as he told it, it ran like this: When Tom walked out the sky to spy, a naughty gnat flew in his eye. But Tom knew not it was a gnat. He thought at first, 'It is a cat.' And then it felt so very big, he thought it surely was a pig, Till standing still to hear it grunt, he cried, 'Why, it's an elephant!' But when the gnat flew out again, and Tom was free from all his pain, he said, 'There flew into my eye a little teenty tiny fly.'" "Indeed," said Inga, laughing, "the gnat was much like your stones that seemed as big as mountains." After their dinner they inspected the palace, which was filled with valuable goods stolen by King Ghosts from many nations. But the day's events had tired them, and they retired early to their big sleeping apartment. "In the morning," said the boy to Rinkitink as he was undressing for bed, "I shall begin the search for my father and mother and the people of Pingaree. And when they are found and rescued, we will all go home again and be as happy as we were before." They carefully bolted the door of their room that no one might enter, and then got into their beds, where Rinkitink fell asleep in an instant. The boy lay awake for a while, thinking over the day's adventures, but presently he fell sound asleep also, and so weary was he that nothing disturbed his slumber until he awakened next morning with a ray of sunshine in his eyes, which had crept into the room through the open window by King Rinkitink's bed. Resolving to begin the search for his parents without any unnecessary delay, Inga at once got out of bed and began to dress himself, while Rinkitink in the other bed was still sleeping peacefully. But when the boy had put on both his stockings and began looking for his shoes, he could find but one of them. The left shoe, that containing the pink pearl, was missing. Filled with anxiety at this discovery, Inga searched through the entire room, looking underneath the beds and divans and chairs and behind the draperies and in the corners and every other possible place a shoe might be. He tried the door and found it still bolted, so with growing uneasiness the boy was forced to admit that the precious shoe was not in the room. With a throbbing heart he aroused his companion. "King Rinkitink," said he, "do you know what has become of my left shoe?" "Your shoe!" exclaimed the king, giving a wide yawn and rubbing his eyes to get the sleep out of them. "Have you lost a shoe?" "Yes," said Inga. "I have searched everywhere in the room and cannot find it." "But why bother me about such a small thing?" inquired Rinkitink. "A shoe is only a shoe, and you can easily get another one. But stay! Perhaps it was your shoe which I threw at the cat last night." "The cat!" cried Inga. "What do you mean?" "Why, in the night," explained Rinkitink, sitting up and beginning to dress himself, "I was wakened by the mewing of a cat that sat upon a wall in the palace just outside my window. As the noise disturbed me, I reached out in the dark and caught up something and threw it at the cat to frighten the creature away. I did not know what it was that I threw, and I was too sleepy to care, but probably it was your shoe, since it is now missing." "Then," said the boy in a despairing tone of voice, "your carelessness has ruined me as well as yourself, King Rinkitink, for in that shoe was concealed the magic power which protected us from danger." The king's face became very serious when he heard this, and he uttered a low whistle of surprise and regret. "Why on earth did you not warn me of this?" he demanded. "And why did you keep such a precious power in an old shoe? And why didn't you put the shoe under a pillow? You were very wrong, my lad, in not confiding to me, your faithful friend, the secret, for in that case the shoe would not now be lost." To all this Inga had no answer. He sat on the side of his bed with hanging head, utterly disconsolate, and seeing this, Rinkitink had pity for his sorrow. "Come," cried the king, "let us go out at once and look for the shoe which I threw at the cat. It must even now be lying in the yard of the palace." This suggestion